Hello, I want to share you an interesting journal paper in strategic management focusing on logistics strategy. The paper title is Shaping the E-commerce Logistics Strategy, uh, brought by Professor Antonio Gezzi from Politecnico di Milano, Italia. My name is Hery Purwanto, so I'm an executive MBA student from IPMI Business School in Jakarta, Indonesia. So if you want to know, this is how my campus looks like in Jakarta, capital city of Indonesia. Before we start, please support me to subscribe or give me your likes for this channel. Let's start with the main page. So the main objective of this paper is to analyze the relationship between logistics strategies and logistics problems in the e-commerce of physical goods in order to present a general normative model and draw some key managerial implication so as to help B2C merchants design their logistics strategies. As we know that lately e-commerce phenomena is very fabulous. Nielsen Company in 2017 reported that the global retail market already reached to 28 trillion USD, where 10% of it shared by e-commerce businesses. And the growth of e-commerce reached to 20% forecast in 2020, or equivalent to 4 trillion USD. The sales of e-commerce actually very much driven by internet penetration. In 2019, forecasted internet will penetrate about half of the worldwide population, about 50 to 53.7% in 2021. But in terms of growth rate, it's about declining for the next coming years. But the smartphone penetration or possession showing a bit higher number, started about 50.6% in 2017, goes into 55.5% in 2020, and the growth rate is quite stable from 10.6% in 2017 till about 5.9% in 2020. And actually we can conclude that retail businesses actually rides on the back of smartphone mostly, and it affected to the sector like apparel and electronics industry. In FMCG is still in the early of the evolution phase. And this graph showing the relationship between retail e-commerce and smartphone penetration in some of the advanced country. You can see that in South Korea, Denmark, and New Zealand, the correlation is very positive. However, the e-commerce penetration to retail sales is considered still low over the years mentioned by the paper. This graph showing you that actually despite the absolute growing of the e-commerce sales is ramping up, but in terms of the percent penetration of total retail sales is not that high and quite stagnant from 2022 and 2023. The paper already explored 5 key factors influencing e-commerce penetration. The first is broadband availability. Second is the legal aspect for consumer protection. The third is security and trust perception. Fourth is high quality customer experience. And fifth, the most important part, which we will uh, deep dive in this paper, actually the best logistics strategy that going to be used. Hence, determining logistics strategy is very important for every B2C online merchant. So it's logistics strategy I have to use. So that question will be answered by this research. This is the Professor Antonio Gezzi Lux from Politecnico di Milano, Italia, and this paper published in International Journal of Engineering Business Management in 2012. Context of the study. Because many research have presented various type of logistics problem and logistics strategies in B2C commerce market, but none of them presented the relationship between logistics strategies and logistics problem, which can help B2C merchant to design their logistics strategy. And the majority of the papers are only focused on specific industries, on specific strategies, lacking of broader perspective, which is useful to identify common principle in order to drive the main logistical choice in the e-commerce field. So there are three research questions to address. First is regarding the most typical e-commerce logistics problem, and also the main e-commerce logistics strategies. And the third is whether it's possible to correlate logistics problem with logistics strategies. Now move to the next slide regarding research framework. So let's look at the first step is literature analysis to select both of key drivers representing the logistics problem and also factors that's shaping logistics strategy. Then moving to the case studies to identify both for logistics problem and also the logistics strategy. Then those two key elements given by the industry's perspective and also the business models that usually being used, then narrowed down to get the relationship between logistics problem and logistics strategy, which is become the objective of this research. So now move to the research methodology that this research being used. The first, of course, a comprehensive literature analysis. The main descriptors of logistics problem and logistics strategy were identified. And the second, of course, the cross-case examination of 28 case studies of leading e-commerce merchants in Italy. The main logistics problem and strategies were categorized. Now we are moving to the main course of this paper. So there are four types of e-commerce business models that being investigated by this paper. The first is complete online sellers. The second is focused online sellers. The third is online clubs. And the fourth is traditional sellers. And the paper already classified the logistic problem that typically encountered by e-commerce business owners. The first is product features related, like value density, product range, risk of obsolescence, and product specific needs. And the second is customer service level, like return management, order cycle time, punctuality, and flexibility. So when the author investigating the logistic problems, actually they tried to investigate it, the business model being used by several e-commerce industry presence from the 28 case studies. So you can see here, for example, in consumer electronic industry, there are several business model being used by uh, e-commerce business owners. Then to check the logistic problem being encountered by the four business model being investigated by this paper, which is complete online seller, focus online seller, traditional seller, and online clubs. They put into uh, Y and X axis of variable, customer service level, and product features. Uh, this graph then divide into four quadrants: service side complexity, high complexity, comparatively easy, and product side complexity. You can check one by one from the 28 case studies how the investigator put each of the uh, business industry and the business model being used into those four quadrants. And now move into the logistic strategies part. There are four logistic activities being investigated. First is inventory ownership. Second is order picking and preparation stage. Third is order assembly stage. And fourth is order delivery. Now move into the summary of logistic strategies being used by the e-commerce merchants. There are six strategies are identified. The first is supplier full manage. So you can see here, actually the profile of between supplier, merchant, and courier here. So if the inventory ownership managed by supplier and picking and preparation, also order assembly also managed by supplier, then the merchant role is also doing the order assembly as well, and the courier doing the order delivery part. So you can see there are several uh, role and responsibility differentiated by the four activities. So the name of the strategy is supplier full manage. And the next is supplier managed inventory. You can see if the inventory ownership taken by the supplier and the merchant taking care of picking and preparation, also order assembly, and the courier doing the order delivery part, then the bucket name, the strategy name is supplier managed inventory. And the rest also you can see here by yourself, the typical activities being used. Consignment inventory, merchant managed inventory, and the last is full in source, where you can see here the merchant actually doing the four activities by themselves. Now move into the very important information presented by this paper, which is relationship between logistic strategy and logistic problem. They divide it into two variables, the problems in y-axis and strategy in x-axis, and grouping into the the various quadrant that we saw before. You see also there are six strategies being used in the logistic strategy part. Now let's see how do we study this. You can check on the first bucket is complete online seller. The business model is complete online seller. The paper investigated that the logistic problem that typically face is classified as product side complexity, and the logistic strategy being used is supplier full manage. And then the star business model is online clubs. The typical problem is classified as comparatively easy. And then the logistic strategy being used is supplier manage inventory, and so on. You can see here one by one. And on the top right is the most complicated one is service side complexity. Coming from the triangle business model is the traditional seller. So the strategies that they use is full in source. So the triangle uh, come up in actually in three bucket, uh, in comparatively easy bucket and high complexity bucket also. And the overall strategy being used for this kind of business model actually merchant managed inventory and also full in source. Now lesson learned. By this paper, actually I agree with three things. The first is the logistic strategy depends on the specific logistics problem. The second, logistic problem is not the only element driving the choice of the logistic strategy. The selection of business model also can determine which logistic strategy that the business owner want to opt. And the third, the model provides the guideline to decide when to completely outsource or insource the logistics processes. Its strategy applied to the cost of logistics, which overcoming specific problem they face. And then I'm not fully agree. The reason why? Because this study has too much simplified the real logistic problem for e-commerce B2C businesses and disregard logistics operation barriers such as warehouse dimension and networks. The second, geographical challenge across the countries. And the last is technology barriers. That's all. Thank you for watching and listening patiently to this topic. Again, before you end, please subscribe or give me your likes to support this channel. Thanks and goodbye.